Half a day, and welcome to this segment of GCA Today. And so today we have as our guest Mr. Gary Hiles, Chief Economist for the Guam Department of Labor. Gary, welcome to the program, and we're glad you're here to join us today to talk a little bit about economics and the economics of construction, I guess for the next couple or 3 years. As we had talked earlier, we were mentioning military buildup is starting to get back on track. So we're seeing some projects come up. We're also seeing a rise in our tourism industry, and although maybe not directly affecting construction in the near future, in the immediate time, but in the near future could bring about more construction work in terms of more hotel rooms that need to be developed and built, and all facilities as well for tourism. But military buildup is also coming back online, and we're seeing some of the projects being let out for bid, and also some other commercial and local government projects coming on. So let's talk a little about construction, at least in the next couple of years, and what we can, I guess, reasonably forecast for 2016, 17, and 18 maybe.
Sure. Construction on Guam remains fairly strong if you compare to the national average. About 5% of the total employment in the economy is in construction, but Guam it's closer to 10%. So we're at a fairly high level historically in comparison. But also because Guam has been completed a number of major projects in the last year. The Dusatani has been completed. The regional medical city hospitals have been completed, and the Port Authority and some of the airport runway projects. So as new projects come online, there could be a little bit of a lull in construction activity, but it'll still remain at pretty similar to current levels, is what I'm anticipating, until new projects come along.
Yeah, and we mentioned, like, especially military construction projects, although we won't see any groundbreaking maybe until first quarter of 2017, certainly there's going to be a lot of projects that will be let out for bid in 2016, and a lot of them are going to be design build type of projects. So give or take about 6 to 8 months for the design process to take place before they actually break ground and start actual construction work. So like he says, we complete some projects that are currently being undergone now. New projects will start to come to fruition probably by the time those projects come to completion.
That's correct. And there's several new projects coming up in a fairly short term. Well, actually, there's several major projects ongoing right now. Macy's is doing a 2-story, 45,000 square foot expansion, and that's supposed to be completed in summer 2016. Also, 3 new hotel projects have been approved by GCA, and those will be starting shortly. There's a 500-room hotel project with QC approved in construction costs of $130 million behind the Akanta Mall in Tumon. Another one, 340 hotel room adjacent to the Honiko with an investment of $168 million. And also the Ladera Towers condominium will be converted to a hotel. So this will create more employment in the hotel industry, but a lot of new construction work coming up fairly shortly, as well as a shopping center that's the structure's been built in the Tumon Bay Mall, but they're planning to do the finishing work inside. So a lot of civilian construction will occur in addition to the military. And while the people always ask, when is the buildup going to occur? Well, the buildup, as you mentioned, related to the Marine Corps relocation won't get underway for another year or two, although the steps are being put in place. But the buildup of the military capability has been ongoing for the last 6 years, with nearly $250 million in construction activity each year. We're watching we have several indicators of construction to come. The longer term indicator is appropriations, what the federal government has appropriated and what the Japan government has appropriated for the Marine relocation buildup. And there's over $1 billion in funds appropriated and ready to spend.
Right.
And so that's the first step. The next step is putting the contracting authority in place for these, and the Department of Defense has already put in, has a number of contracting multiple award vehicles that they put in place recently.
Mm-hmm.
So they're geared up for the contracting. And now they're moving ahead with the next step of, they have a list of requests for specific project
Mm-hmm.
proposals that they're putting out in this year. And when those are completed, they'll issue task orders for those individual projects.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're watching, things are coming through the pipeline, and as those come online, we'll expect expansion in the construction industry to some extent, but also to some extent it will replace the existing projects that are being completed, so it's not like those projects will be on top of the current level of
Mhm.
activity.
Okay, you know, with the Guam Contractors Association, and of course the creation of the GCA Trades Academy, we've always been working, at least for the past 8 years, in developing our local workforce, so that as we're seeing now, construction work will be probably going through a phase where we're going to be requiring a lot of workers in the industry. But as you know, we've got such a limited resource available here, and we can only develop, you know, so many skilled workers in our field. What do you anticipate the need is for alien or foreign workers to come here to supplement what we already have put in place? You know, knowing that there's going to be military construction going on, the addition of the new hotels in the commercial sector, and maybe some of the government of Guam work that's coming up. What are the indicators showing with in terms of labor that's needed to complete some of these jobs?
I think there's been a spectacular success in the transition to more of a local workforce and construction industry. In the boom of the 90s, 92, of the 12,000 construction workers, about 50% were H2s. But currently, we have approximately 6,000 employees in the construction industry, and only a little less than 1,300 are
Right,
H2 workers. So it's close to 80% local workers. And I expect at the peak period of the buildup, to accommodate the peak, there will be more H2 workers used and needed. But increasingly, the local workforce can handle a significant portion of the projects.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's with well, I know we're doing additional training, so would you suppose that it's occurring because of the productivity of these workers have now kind of increased? I don't think we've really increased the number of employees, but I think we've increased the productivity rate because of the education that they're, you know, we put together for these type of workers. So I don't know if that productivity rate has gone up as well. And I know we had a press release from the Department of Labor as well for H2 alien common construction prevailing wages have also increased. Some positions have increased by as much as $3 per hour.
That should make the and companies that have H2s are required to pay the local workers the same.
That's correct, same
wage
rates,
rate.
right.
So that should provide an economic incentive to attract more people and retain more people in the industry. But I think one of the things that's also really helped create more local employment in the industry is the fairly steady nature of the construction over the last few years. If it's a boom and bust, people come and go. But the construction over the last 6 years, like I said, the average of the Department of Defense has been $250 million, and local construction has been roughly the same amount. So roughly $500 million in construction annually and employment around 6,000 has been pretty stable. So that's made it easier for local workers to transition into the industry.
And that's true. And this build-up phase, part two of this build-up phase, now is going to show a little more consistency over the years rather than a big spike on the number of construction work, and then dies off or tapers off, as you mentioned. So we had this real big peak, and then we go down to a real deep valley, and so that's why there's not that consistency. But it's going to be a little steady for a longer period of time, which in itself could be a career and enough to work and then retire after I guess so many years. So that would definitely add to being more security on the job in construction, where, as you said, it's cyclical in nature. So sometimes we get a lot of workers that are needed, and sometimes we have to lay off a lot of workers. And Guam is right in the middle of the ocean, Pacific Ocean, where we don't, unlike our U.S. counterparts, we can't go from state to state to look for work, within close proximity of where our homeland is.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That the new plan for the build-up is much longer term, and the ramp up is much more gradual, and the ramp down is more gradual. So that is much better for the economy, and that in terms of more local workers. And it's going to be easier for the construction companies, rather than going from nothing to 1,000 employees overnight. That as one project completes, you can move on to another project and just gradually keep ramping up and expanding a little bit.
Okay, so the biggest question in the last minute of this program, Gary, what do you foresee our economic outlook is for, say, through 2018? We'll give you like 2 years.
I think that we've seen the economic census shows over the last 5-6 years, we've seen a very moderate but steady expansion and growth every single year. I think that trend will continue, but it will ramp up especially with the build-up in 2017, very substantially. And also, if tourism keeps up, that will, since tourism is a larger sector of the economy than construction, that will also provide growth from two sectors that will complement each other.
Right.
Sometimes we've had where one sector is up, but then other sectors down, and so the bottom line is flat. If both sectors are growing,
we're both growing at the same time.
That's correct. That will provide more expansion and more steady growth, as well as expansion in the tourism industry will lead to further hotel development and stores and restaurants, and the employees buying houses and other things in the construction industry that will be supported.
And definitely more job opportunities for those in the tourism segment as well. Hotels, food service, retail, those type of services. And of course, an increase in tourism is always good for construction, because there's always going to be the need for new facilities, more rooms, I guess, for the tourists to stay in, and more recreational facilities being built to increase our tourism market. So looks like it could be a pretty promising couple of years and even beyond that. So thank you, Gary, for giving us an insight on the economy, at least for the next couple or 3 years, and definitely some good news for our construction sector. And hopefully after that, we'll see even more better news, I guess, beyond 2018. So Gary, thanks a lot. Appreciate you joining us today.
For the opportunity.
And until our next segment, we'll see you again on GCA Today.